Traore has survived more than 20 assassination attempts, a staggering number that underscores the relentless efforts to eliminate him. These coup attempts are not random acts of rebellion. They are carefully planned and heavily funded operations aimed at destabilizing Burkina Faso. Millions of dollars have been poured into these efforts, proving that foreign entities are willing to go to extreme lengths to eliminate Traore and regain control over the region. One of the most shocking coup attempts was uncovered just weeks ago in Ouagadougou. A foreign agent was caught in the act, attempting to bribe soldiers with an astonishing sum of 5 billion francs money intended to finance a coup against Traore. The plan began months earlier when an individual arrived in Burkina Faso under the pretense of being an investor. To the public, he appeared to be a businessman seeking opportunities in the country. However, behind the scenes, he was orchestrating a sinister plot.
Hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from now. The unity of black people has threatened the Western powers, and they want Pan-Africanists in Africa to be eliminated. And those Pan-Africanists we are talking about includes Ibrahim Traoré. You've seen whatever they have done to Julius Malema. They have condemned the unity speaking about. They have condemned him and called him an international terrorist. So let's watch this video, then have a very quick discussion at the end of it.
Targets. His unbending resilience and doggedness against the West needs to be studied, especially in expelling the West from Burkina Faso, his boldness, his speech delivery, and in making sure he fights for the rights of his people has totally infuriated the West. And they've been looking for ways to, silence the young man through sanctions. Sanctions were imposed on Burkina Faso, but this did not stop Ibrahim Traoré, neither did he bend to external pressure. Instead, he made bold moves in agricultural expansion, infrastructure development, and in strengthening the military. All this restructuring has contributed to the several attempts made on his life.
Office. According to intelligence reports, this man was not acting alone. He had direct ties to powerful foreign entities that have long sought to destabilize not just Burkina Faso, but the entire Sahel region.
The West do not want to let go of Africa, neither do they want anyone to stand up as a savior. War and instability has been a major tool used by foreign entities to destabilize these nations in order to lay hands on their vast mineral resources. They make the nations come off as weak and unable to do anything on their own, hence depending on them. And in this relationship, they get to exchange something in return, and that is their minerals. Take a look at what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That is an example for us all. And not just that, we've had various examples like this in the past. We've had various situations such as this, where African nations sought help from the West. But what these guys didn't anticipate or prepare for is the outright loyalty of Ibrahim Traoré's soldiers. They did not know that they would be so committed to the cause, committed to backing Ibrahim Traoré up, that they only pretended to work with the foreign entity for a while, only to gather intelligence, to gather information, and on the long run, they planned a counter coup against the foreign entity. Now, one of the ways these guys infiltrate the camp of the African nation is that they bribe their way through. They look for a snitch, or they look for a person who is ready to sell their soul. Yes, to sell not just their soul, but to sell their people. And then they bribe their way through in order to do what they want to do. Oh, but they did not know that they were going to meet with a resistance, a force against them. I mean, everyone in Burkina Faso wants the best for Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré has a whole community, not just community. It has a whole nation standing solidly behind him. At a point, he wanted to step down, but they said no, that he must continue reigning because they loved his rulership. I mean, who wouldn't love his rulership? And it's so obvious why these guys will continually look for ways to end the life of Ibrahim Traoré. And dare I say, they will not succeed. We are praying for his safety and we hope he will be kept. Yes, not just that. They want to continually have Africa by its neck. And anyone who stands up as a savior seems to be a threat. And that is why they want to end the life of this young man.
Another assassination attempt on the life of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who is the leader of Burkina Faso, has left the continent on edge. And while we celebrate his survival, I think the question looms large, which is, why is the West so intent on silencing this revolutionary leader? Now, since coming to power in 2022, Traoré has emerged as a beacon of hope, and not just for Burkina Faso itself, but also for all of Africa. I mean, he is part of a new wave of African leadership, which is actually actively rejecting the shackles of colonialism and defying Western control and actually reshaping the future for his people. And yet, right, it is precisely this bold defiance, that this commitment to Pan-Africanism, that has actually made him a target. Now, let's cut through the noise, right, and get straight to the point. I think that the West has every reason to want Ibrahim Traoré gone. For them, I think he's not just another African leader, but he is a direct threat to the centuries-old exploitation of African continent. And this is about much more than Burkina Faso. This is about the entire Sahel region, and indeed all of Africa, rejecting the dominance of foreign powers that have used all our resources to fuel their own prosperity while keeping us in a state of poverty and dependence. And for some in the West, right, seeing Traoré challenge France's influence in countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is actually a nightmare, because that influence is crumbling and they will do anything to stop that collapse. I mean, now the big question we need to ask ourselves as Africans is this, right? How far will the West go to stop these revolutions from within? How much will they sacrifice, not just in terms of money or influence, but in terms of human life? And perhaps more dangerously, how much will they rely on internal traitors to help them to do their dirty work? Now, it's no secret, right, that there are forces within Africa itself who have long benefited from the status quo. And those who benefit from the Western power, whether in government, business, or military circles, these internal collaborators can be just as dangerous as the foreign powers, as I believe they hold the keys to the gates of power and have a vested interest in preserving the system that keeps them rich while the rest of us suffer. And I think that the question now is, how can leaders like Traoré identify and eliminate these internal collaborators who may be working with foreign forces to undermine their efforts? I mean, we know that the forces who benefit from Western influence in Africa are well-resourced, well-organized, and have long networks of influence across the continent. And let's not sugarcoat it, right? The West has always employed covert operation to maintain control. I mean, we saw it during the Cold War, we see it now again today. So it's no surprise that Ibrahim Traoré, as a young and dynamic leader who unapologetically is anti-West, would be targeted. His rise isn't just a political shift, but it's a threat to the status quo, and the West won't take that lying down. I mean, think about it. Ibrahim Traoré didn't just challenge the political landscape of Burkina Faso, he changed the geopolitical status of the entire Sahel region. When he came to power, he wasted no time in kicking out the French troops, shutting down the Western military presence, and cutting ties with France, who is the Burkina Faso's former colonial ruler. He's put Burkina Faso's resources and power back in the hands of the Burkinabe people, and he's challenging the French narrative that has kept this region under neo-colonial control for decades. And that is an impeccable shift. And for those in Paris, Washington, and London, I'm sure it's a nightmare they're desperately ready to put to rest. But here's the thing, right? Why are African leaders like Traoré still so vulnerable to these attacks? Why, after all these years, are we still dealing with assassination attempts on African revolutionaries? I believe it's not just a matter of foreign powers acting against us. It's about how our own governments, our own institutions, and our own systems allow these things to actually happen. The West may be pulling the strings from behind the scenes, but it's often the traitors within our own ranks who facilitate these attacks, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And as Africans, I believe we need to wake up to this truth. Our enemies aren't just on the outside, they're also in the corridors of power, in the elite circles that profit from Western involvement. We need to be vigilant. We need leaders who understand the stakes and who can protect not only their lives, but their missions. Because when leaders like Ibrahim Traoré rise up to challenge the system, they aren't just fighting for themselves, they're fighting for the future of Africa. And the big question now is, how do we protect our leaders and our revolutionaries? How do we ensure that the voices of Pan-African empowerment are heard without being silenced by assassination or sabotage? And one thing is clear, right? The West's grip on Africa is weakening. And they will fight to hold on to it, but the time has come for us to unify, to be strategic, to make sure that our revolutionary leaders are protected from both external forces and internal betrayers. Now, Ibrahim Traoré's survival today is a victory, but the real battle is still ahead. It's not just about one man. It's not about his one revolution. It's about protecting our collective future. It's about ensuring that the work of revolutionaries like Traoré continues and that no one, whether foreign or domestic, can stop us from reclaiming Africa's destiny. Now,
Burkina Faso's 35-year-old president Ibrahim Traoré has set social media ablaze with his comments lamenting how Africa, despite all of its richness in natural resources, is still so poor that its leaders have to travel to the West to beg for aid. He made these comments while attending the second edition of the just-ended Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg, Russia, that took place from July 27th to July 28th, 2023. President Ibrahim Traoré, who is Africa's youngest president, also stressed the need for African countries to forge new alliances moving forward to guarantee a brighter future for their people. Hello and welcome. This is Rain Smith, and you are watching the New Africa channel.
Les questions que mes générations se posent sont les suivantes, si je peux me résumer. C'est de ne pas comprendre comment l'Afrique, avec tant de richesses sur notre sol, avec une nature généreuse, de l'eau, du soleil en abondance, l'Afrique est aujourd'hui le continent le plus pauvre. L'Afrique est un continent affamé. Et comment se fait-il que les chefs d'État traversent donc le monde à mendier? Voici des questions que nous nous posons et que nous n'avons pas de réponse jusque-là. Nous avons l'occasion de tisser de nouvelles relations. Et j'espère que ces relations puissent être les meilleures pour donner un meilleur avenir à nos peuples.
Said to have been a shy but intelligent boy in school, Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré is one of the most recent military commanders to capture power in a coup in one of France's former colonies in West Africa. Traoré was part of the group of army officers that supported the January 2022 Burkina Faso coup d'état and brought the patriotic movement for safeguard and restoration military junta to power. From March 2022, he served as the head of an artillery regiment in Kaya, the fifth largest city in Burkina Faso, lying northeast of Ouagadougou. However, he was catapulted onto the world stage after overthrowing his ex-comrade Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba on September 30th, 2022, accusing him of breaking his vow to put an end to the Islamist conflict that has plagued Burkina Faso since 2015. The 35-year-old captain was born in 1988, making him the youngest head of state in Africa. He joins the ranks of three other coup leaders, the charismatic Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya of Guinea, born in 1981, the bearded Colonel Assimi Goïta of Mali, born in 1983, and General Abdourahmane Tiani, born in 1961, the head of Niger's powerful presidential guard since 2015, who just declared himself leader on July 29, 2023, after barricading President Mohamed Bazoum inside his residence and demanding his resignation. After successfully orchestrating his coup, Captain Traoré reportedly told government officials, "I know I'm younger than most of you here. We didn't want what happened, but we didn't have a choice." President Ibrahim Traoré's bold comments at the Russia-Africa Summit have resonated deeply with Africans and earned him an influx of admirers overnight. It is indeed perplexing that Africa, blessed with an abundance of natural resources, continues to grapple with poverty to the extent that it relies on foreign aid. This paradox can be attributed to a combination of historical factors, including colonial exploitation, unequal trade relationships, political instability, corruption, and mismanagement of resources. Additionally, the lack of diversified economies and sustainable development strategies has hindered the continent's ability to fully harness its wealth of resources for the benefit of its people. President Traoré also pointed out the irony of African leaders seeking aid from the West, despite overseeing countries with abundant resources. By voicing the frustrations and long-held questions of many Africans, Traoré has emerged as a symbol of hope for change and a catalyst for challenging the status quo in Africa's leadership and economic landscape. As a young leader, Traoré's advantage lies in his ability to connect with the aspirations of Africa's youth, who make up a significant portion of the continent's population. Many young Africans are eager to identify with fresh ideas and identities of leaders like themselves, who can bring about innovative approaches to governance and tackle long-standing challenges. Traoré's youthfulness thus brings a sense of relatability and represents a beacon of progress for a generation seeking to reshape Africa's narrative and usher in a new era of prosperity and self-reliance. Do you agree with Captain Ibrahim Traoré's comments about the need for Africa's story to change through strategic alliances and good leadership?
Military leader Ibrahim Traoré is reportedly facing a mutiny, which is linked to the June 11 attack by Al-Qaeda-affiliated insurgents that left over 100 Burkina Faso soldiers dead. A day after the attack, gunfire was heard close to the Burkina Faso presidency. A rocket shell also fell near the state-run RTB television's headquarters in the capital of Ouagadougou. Now, this led to the media and activists speculating about whether Traoré was safe and if the attack had triggered a wave of dissent within the army. Breaking his silence 10 days after the attack, Burkina Faso's military leader, Ibrahim Traoré, appeared on national television. In his address, he denied reports of a mutiny within the army. He dismissed media reports as fake news. Traoré said a rocket was launched into RTB's courtyard by mistake by those who were there to protect the TV channel's staff. Traoré did not address a claim of responsibility by an Al-Qaeda-affiliated group, but said Burkina Faso had launched an operation after the attack. The June 11th attack on the Mansilla area was one of the deadliest that Burkina Faso's army suffered. Fighters from Al-Qaeda-affiliated JNIM group stormed a military post and killed 107 soldiers. The fighters had also captured a large amount of weapons and ammunition during the attack. Burkina Faso has been battling Islamist insurgents since 2015. About half of the country is outside government control. In 2022, Ibrahim Traoré took over power in the country, citing urgent security challenges, which he said his predecessors failed to tackle. He promised to end the Islamist insurgency. However, despite several counterterrorism operations launched by Traoré, the security situation in Burkina Faso continued to deteriorate. Ibrahim Traoré is now facing the same criticism that he once leveled against his predecessors. Speculation about internal tensions within the military have been brewing for quite some time now. Not just the people, but soldiers have also expressed frustration at the junta's failure to contain the security crisis after a series of high-profile attacks. After ousting French troops, junta governments in Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have turned to Russia for bolstering security in their countries. Last week, planes carrying Russian military instructors and reinforcements were dispatched to Burkina Faso for Ibrahim Traoré's security. Earlier, the three West African military governments also vowed to coordinate to fight jihadists. Some Malian officials also reportedly were dispatched to Burkina Faso. Now, according to a Reuters report, a Russian-registered cargo plane made 7 trips to Burkina Faso's capital from Gao and Bamako in Mali between the 15th and the 18th of June. In his address, Burkina Faso's military leader, Ibrahim Traoré, also said that 6 Russian planes had flown from Mali's Gao carrying UN equipment following the conclusion of a mission there.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Now, some people, it is true that they are threatened by the unity of black folks. Now, they are threatened by the unity of Africa as a continent. They are threatened by the unity of us, black folks around the world, coming together maybe to fight the oppression and to fight for our social rights, to fight for everything that has been taken away from us. Now, you can remember very well that all these countries, France, the US, all these European countries were once third world countries without having discovered Africa. Now, they are today the first world countries of this world dictating who should do what and where one should go for help and who you should associate with. Now, as a matter of fact, everything they have in their countries, I mean everything from the Industrial Revolution that took place 100 years back until to date, everything they own can be attributed from Africa and can be attributed to black folks around the world. Now, if it were not for the African diaspora who worked in their farms, who worked in their cotton plantations, who worked in their wheat plantations, who worked for them in their factories without payment, the US and all these other countries could still be third world countries. Now, the technology they have today can be attributed to Africa. Now, let me remind you one thing. You all are forgetting that Africa is the cradle of human beings. Now, this is where life began. It began here in Africa. Everyone who exists today, even if you are to believe in the evolution theory, now you are at one point going to agree with me that life started in Africa. Later on, people started drifting away from Africa and moving to other continents when the continental drift was taking place. Now, that's why Africa must be respected, because all they have today, the resources, these people are still living in darkness. So when we say that Africa must unite, when we say that black folks must come together, this must be a threat to them, because in the division of black folks, they have survived. In the weaknesses that we have, it has been their strengths. So when we are confronting our weaknesses and when we are saying that we want to make ourselves great, we want to make things work for black folks, it doesn't sit well with some people. And that's why you see some people want the life of Ibrahim Traoré. They want the lives of the people who are fighting for this continent, for the people who have been talking and who have been radical about getting African folks together. Now, let it be remembered that all our forefathers who stood true to the cause were once eliminated. They eliminated Martin Luther King. They eliminated Malcolm X. And they have continued eliminating each and every person who has shown power, who has shown courage, and who has shown bravery to get black folks on track. Now, these are the characteristics of Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso. He has shown power. He has shown the character that he can, of course, lead the whole continent into a revolution. The charisma in him, that's whatever they don't want. The bravery, the wisdom in this man, that's whatever makes them so upset with Ibrahim Traoré, to an extent where they want to eliminate him. I was reading an article, And I saw just last year, they tried eliminating this man 15 times. And since he rose to power, they have tried to eliminate him at least 27 times. You can see why they are so much obsessed with African continent being the same way it is. Now, it is by the chaos that happen in Africa that they exist. They have propelled narratives of democracy in Africa, of which democracy doesn't work in Africa, even in their own countries. Now, they bring these democracy things so that they keep on making puppets to be the president. Now, they have managed to make puppets everywhere in Africa. They have managed to make Africa look poor, because they know we have a lot of resources and our people are not well educated. They have not received civil education on whatever is happening in the continent, because when people are sitting on mineral resources, they do not know the importance of mineral resources. It is the work of our leaders who we have elected to lead this continent to come out and tell us, you know what, this is whatever these minerals can do for us. So it is their work to use the taxes we pay to build refinery factories, to build all these manpower that can help us extract or refine our own minerals in Africa, be it gold, diamond, because copper, we have all these minerals in Africa. Let's not mine our own mineral resources or let them exploit our mineral resources and take them to the other side. And then they come in double or triple prices in Africa. We don't want that. So when Ibrahim Traoré is doing these things, now he becomes an enemy of the West, because it is our gold that has propelled the economies. You can remember France, Spain, England, the UK and the US have the largest mineral reserves without gold deposits in their own country. They do not have gold mines in their own countries, but they have they have gold reserves that has kept their economy going. While in Africa, countries like Congo, which lead in mineral resources, do not have a single gold reserve in their countries. Every mineral in that country, after having caused chaos, the US and all these other countries come, exploit the minerals, take them to the other side, and continue with the same thing. This is why we are seeing so many wars happening in Africa, in some parts of Africa, those that have minerals. It is because they do not want peace. So when someone is so brave who comes out to actually talk about how these things should happen, they are not happy with Ibrahim Traoré. They are not happy with the likes of Julius Malema. They have not been happy with how some leaders in Africa have been exposing them. So there is need for them to stop them, and the only way to stop them is either turning them away from the people, and in which they can't right now. So the only way that remains, they can either use the opposition to fight the person in power, or if not the opposition, they are going to use their machineries and their CIA agents in Africa to come and fight their own brothers and sisters. So it is a very critical moment, and I feel like this is the time we all, people of black descent, the African people, should actually stand with one of our own. Let's support whatever is telling us, and let's do whatever can make this continent great. It is only this way that this continent is going to be great. It is only this way that we are going to achieve unity. And remember, when we are fighting for the unity of Africa, there are so many things we are risking. The platforms we post our videos belong to them. The platforms that we share our own desire for Africa, our own plans to make this continent and black people great, are theirs. So there is need for Africa to build a website where we can be doing our own things in our own way. It is high time we black folks realize that our unity has been their biggest threat. And anyone who is talking about the unity of Africa is threatening them in a very direct way. And that's why you see, I continue saying, if France was to be withdrawn from Africa, the US and all these countries, oh my goodness, they are going to be third world countries in the next 1 year. So let's pray. Let's pray for our own unity. Let's talk about these things because it is very important, of course. Thank you so much for having taken the time to watch this video. I appreciate brothers and sisters. If it's your first time on the channel, please consider subscribing, sharing, and commenting on this video. One love.